It's my pleasure now to hand over to Ben McGowan from Indigo Power. And Ben, welcome very much to our meeting. And if you could take control of the meeting now, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Jeff. And I have to say, it is a shame that you can't see his Jeff's video, because he does look very presidential normally with his study and his bookshelf lined up behind him. So that's that's a shame. But thanks, Jeff, and thanks for the introduction. So tonight I'll speak for a little while. I give you a bit of a high level account of what we're working on with Healesville CoRE here in, well, where you are in beautiful Healesville. To give you a little bit of an introduction and some steps that are possible with the Community Energy Hub. So really an invitation, a little bit of definition. Normally there's lots of questions, and that's where a lot of the detail will come from. So feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A panel there, and we'll get to them, as Jeff says, as the evening unfolds. So I'd also like to acknowledge the Indigenous owners wherever we are, pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and a big thank you to Healesville CoRE for hosting tonight and doing all the work to make this happen, and really excited to be collaborating with Healesville CoRE and to be here tonight. So thanks for that. So Indigo Power really was set up to solve a problem, and the problem is climate change and greenhouse gas emissions, and some problems like perhaps the ones we're experiencing in 2020, they come and go, but we all know, I think, that climate change is one that's here to stay, and it's not going to go away without some serious work. So Indigo Power was set up really to solve that problem. And the good news is that it's a problem that's tractable. So the electricity sector in Australia is about 33% of greenhouse gas emissions. And we all know that 33%, we have the technology at the moment to turn that to zero. So it's tractable, we can do something about it. We also know that transition to renewable energy is going to happen. It'll happen sooner or later. We need to act to fast track that, and we therefore have a decision here where we are in regional Victoria to say, is that a transition we want to happen at its own time and something that happens to us, or is it something where we want to get organised in our communities and get active, and so we lead that transition, and we position ourselves in a place where we can benefit from that. So we calculated for where we were here in northeast Victoria that $160 million leaves our little patch here in electricity bills each year. So with a local community-owned energy provider that's a social enterprise, so is returning profits back to communities and is looking to source as much renewable energy as possible from local sources, is a really nice opportunity to try and keep some of that money. And we all know that I think for our communities, even small portions of that amount would be meaningful. So we have a big problem that we're faced with. We have an opportunity to address it, and as well, there's an opportunity to benefit in, I guess, other ways as well. And as Jeff says, it's about renewable energy, of course, but there's opportunities as well for community benefit and community development. So Indigo Power is what's called a public unlisted company, a bit of a boring term, but basically what that means is we've set it up that way so we can have as many shareholders as possible. So we had our first public share offer this year, and we've now got 275 shareholders from right across Victoria, and some down around Healesville, Mansfield, Marysville, Kinglake sort of way as well. So you're represented with the Indigo Power members as well. So community owned, a social enterprise. We're a certified social enterprise. And basically what that means is we've got a really clear purpose. We're a for-purpose company, and we have to spend 50% of our profits on meeting that purpose. So that's to say 50% of profits coming back to the communities that we work with for more renewable energy development. So a bit of a positive feedback cycle, hoping to get that going as we get moving. The other thing to say is we're a local company, so we're based here in beautiful Beechworth, in regional Victoria, and I think local as well is relative in that we're really looking to work in a localised sense. So work with local communities who are interested in taking up this community energy hub idea. So working in a really localised sense as well. So our purpose then, out of all that, is to create a society powered by 100% renewable energy in a way that supports and empowers communities. So that's a little bit about Indigo Power, and we're incorporated in November 2018. So we're a young company, and as Jeff said, have taken on that that challenge of setting up these community energy hubs. So the idea of the community energy hub, and I say again, we're sort of right at the start of this journey of working out what these are, setting the frameworks for them, enacting them locally, and trying to make them really meaningful and effective. But what we're asking at the moment is, when we think about community energy hubs, is that we're imagining a future where a local community-owned energy provider is supplying power to local customers, and it's being sourced from local. 100% of that power is being sourced from local sources. So that's to say, in this example here, obviously there's some scale generation and storage. So we're looking to build some larger community assets, and as well there's some the household generation and storage, being able to bring that all together. So the idea for these community energy hubs came from a lot of good work happening in Yakandanda, and for the longest time I was a member of the Totally Renewable Yakandanda Committee of Management, and Matt Charles Jones, who's also speaking tonight, is the current chair of that committee, which I've now left. So in Yakandanda, there was some work happening in that committee, and a partnership was developed with a company called Mondo, and Mondo are electrical or distributed energy specialists. And the conversation was, how do we take a town like Yakandanda and others that are in our region and get them to 100% renewable energy? And we came up with what's a pretty simple 3-step plan. And the first step is really about doing some of this work here to get households as energy efficient as we can, and adding generation and storage to those households. So that's the first step. That's really good. That's interesting. I've got solar panels on my roof, but that wasn't doing what we wanted to set out to do, which was work as a community, work in our sphere of influence to act on climate change and to get this 100% renewable energy target. To do that, we needed to come together and work as a community. So this was the idea of the community energy hub of Indigo Power. So to do that, we needed to have everyone join a common electricity provider, so we could notionally share electricity with one another and begin to track how we were going against that renewable energy target. So that's the second step. And the third step was, well, that's going to be good. We're going to bring all our households together and we're going to start taking meaningful steps, but it's probably not going to get us all the way. So we need to build some of these larger scale generation and storage facilities as well. And again, we need Indigo power and an electricity supplier to be able to connect those assets to local customers as well. So that's the idea for Indigo Power, and that's where it came from. We launched the Yakandanda Community Energy Hub in November 2019, so it's been going for almost a year now. And that hub now has almost, it has 150 customers or members of the hub. So I want to talk a little bit more then about the hub and where it's up to at the moment. And again, these are our first steps to trying to make the hub meaningful and effective. So this is a readout from the Mondo Ubi smart control device, and it shows exactly what's happening in Yakandanda yesterday. So you can see here that we've got 3 categories of power supply and power export. So this is for this is for me. This is for a solar customer. So you can see there's 3 categories within the hub. The first category is from your neighbours, from the community. The second category is shared assets, and you'll see there's not any of that cyan on that wedge there or that pie graph at the moment. So that says we're working towards that. And then the other is carbon offset power from the grid. So obviously what we're trying to do across time is squeeze more and more of this purple color out and replace it with the orange and that cyan. So what we can see here for this readout, it's beginning to give us information that we can act on. So here, me, a solar customer, 3% of my power is supplied from the community. And basically that would look a whole lot better for a non-solar customer, because when my solar panels are working, I don't need it from elsewhere. So it's sort of working around the edges. The other thing we can see is that of the exports, not all of the power is being consumed. So it says we've got a bit of a glut of solar during the middle of the day. And this is actually from a couple of months ago. This is from July. So it's even, the problem's even more pronounced at the moment. So that's beginning to give us some information to act on. But again, there's a few problems with this. That's just me. We want to again have a visual of what's happening across the community. So we're currently working on the software to do that, to say, me, that's interesting, good. But Yakandanda, Healesville as a whole, how are we going? So that work's happening. And the other thing is not everyone has one of these smart control devices. So we're also working on a solution so that everyone can see this information, whether they have an Ubi or not. So that's what's happening with the energy share. And then we obviously have the job, Indigo Power, Healesville CoRE, of taking that information, acting on it, and starting to take those steps towards 100% renewable for our towns and our communities. So there's the 2 ways that we can work on that in that 3-step plan I talked about. One is we call Clean Energy Solutions, and Healesville CoRE already very good at this. So that's to say, identifying opportunities for getting really good energy efficiency devices onto households, or getting really good quality solar, battery and control devices onto households. So Healesville CoRE have got this one covered, and I think are good partners if you're looking for to roll out more of this household technology. And then the other one, community generation and storage, I think we're going to hear a little bit from Julian on this tonight as well, some opportunities for that. But that's to say, identifying sites around town that could host larger scale generation and storage. And again, that's a Healesville CoRE, Indigo Power partnership, and others bringing those online and connecting them to the hub as well. So I wanted to give you a quick example of what that looks like and what that could look like in Healesville. So this is going to be the first shared asset for the Yakandanda hub. So this is now fully financed, and we're into delivering this project. So it's the first shared asset. It's going to be 66 kilowatts of solar, and 270 kilowatt hours of battery storage. And Totally Renewable Yackandandah did some really good work identifying a suitable site for this. So it's at the old sawmill, and the reason it's there is it's where currently where Ben Gilbert and his Agency of Sculpture workshop is. It's got a really large roof space. It's got a spot where we could put a container with batteries in it, and most importantly, because it's the old sawmill, it used a lot of power back in the day, and that means we can now export a lot of power back into the hub to supply Yackandandah customers. So that took a fair bit of, I guess, local knowledge, local connections to bring this one off. So it might power 40 energy efficient homes overnight. So breaking it down into these manageable chunks makes it possible to bring these online. And because we have 150 customers in the hub, we've got the customers to sell the power to. And Yackandandah is our biggest hub at the moment. So we're working to get some generation happening there. So we're working with, we started in Yackandandah in November 2019. In March of this year, we launched across the region. Couldn't have been a worse time, obviously, but we've been launching these community energy hubs now since March of this year. And there's now 31 community energy hubs across the region, and we just opened another one last week in the eastern Dandenong Ranges, so up on the hill there. And I think the most exciting part though is working with effective local partners with the community energy hub tool to make it effective at a local level. So really pleased to be working with Healesville CoRE in Healesville, and then Healesville CoRE and others across the region are working at a regional level as well. So we come together on a bi-monthly basis through a network of groups that are working on similar projects across from as far south as Healesville, Seymour, and all the way up to Albury to work on a regional solution. So this is part of, I guess, a regional approach as well. The Healesville hub sits against all these other hubs and contribute to a regional approach that's happening right across the area. So the final piece, I guess, is to join the hub. You join Indigo Power as a customer. And when you join as a customer, Indigo Power begins supplying you with power, just like any other electricity provider. So I guess this part of the presentation is to give you the why you might join Indigo Power as a customer, switch over from your existing electricity provider and join the Healesville Community Energy Hub. So local, where we are, again, local is relative, so we're up here in Beechworth, but when you do pick up the phone, you'll speak to either myself or Sandy, and you'll be speaking to people who know the region, know the hills and valleys down to Melbourne. But also, I think more importantly, working with Healesville CoRE to make local or to try and bring off effective local action on climate change through these energy hubs, through local power generation and consumption and these community energy hubs. So clean power, obviously when we're sourcing from the community energy hub, that's renewable energy when we're trying to increase that. But when we're purchasing from outside the hub, all the power that we supply is 100% carbon offset, which is included for everyone, included in the price. Affordable and fair. So our prices are competitive, and we certainly don't expect customers to join if it's more. We're trying to do all of this and still have a competitive rate, and everyone's on the same rate. So everyone gets our best price all the time. We don't have a really sharp market offer and then a really bad offer that we try and switch people across to. Everyone gets the same rate, and it's the best we can provide. Reliable, so we've got, again, a local customer service, so you'll be speaking to myself or Sandy, and Sandy most of the time, who's really effective at resolving any problems you have and taking them up and getting them fixed. And also, I think people often have a question about, well, this community energy hub sounds interesting, but and renewable energy, but is it the same reliability of supply? And the answer there is definitely yes. The same reliability of supply as you would have with any other electricity provider. Community owned, so we've got 275 community owners, shareholders from across the region, and with that community ownership becomes, I guess, community action, in that what the things we do have to meet the needs of the community, because we have these community owners keeping us to account. And we do have provisions in the Constitution as well that make sure we stay community owned, so limits on shareholding size and that sort of thing. So a truly community owned company, and we'll be likely looking to continue to grow our shareholding base over the coming years and take on new shareholders as well. But that same principle, lots of small shareholders, and then shared profits. So that's that idea about being a social enterprise. So when things are going well, we've just started, but you can imagine in 5 years' time, a profitable Indigo Power circulating funds back to a Healesville and other communities to use to further the effectiveness of the community energy hub through clean energy solutions, through scaled generation and storage. So I think I'll wind it up there and hand back to you, Jeff. If there's any questions now, I'm very happy to answer them, or happy to wait to the end. I think the key things to take away from my end is reach out, get in touch. I would really love to have you join the Healesville Community Energy Hub and join Indigo Power as a customer, and to join in, get involved. There's lots of good stuff happening, and we're really excited to be in Healesville, working with Healesville CoRE on this local renewable energy project.
Great, Ben. Thanks very much for your presentation. A lot of information there for people to take in, but very informative. We've got a couple of questions at the moment. So some people are using the Q&A function and some chat. So I'll switch between them. I'll go into the Q&A first. John Mulhoot is asking, what's the price per kilowatt for the supply of 40 homes in Yakandanda? And where does Paul Walker saying, where does Mondo fit into this? You're muted, Ben.
Thanks, Jeff. So these are our current charges. We'll have these to the end of the year when we'll be looking to offer more competitive rates. But these are our current ones, and we're looking to pass through a price drop with a price reduction at the end of the year in our reprice. The question about the battery, so the battery is included in these rates. So we'll be supplying customers in Yakandanda with these rates, but they'll have the benefit of seeing on their screen and seeing that it's coming from local sources. So that's how that fits in. The question of Mondo. So these are questions we get a bit. So Mondo, we have two important partners that you should know about. So Mondo brings together the energy share algorithm. So they do that work. And they're also really our partners in smart grid capacity. So we use when we're using control devices, we use their expertise and we use their smart control device. They've also been supportive in some of the electrical engineering work that we've been doing as well. So they're key partners of ours, mostly around the distributed energy space. Our other key partners are Energy Locals. So they provide a service to us that allows us to deliver the community energy hub model. And basically, what that looks like is they procure energy from the wholesale market on our behalf, as well as operate the billing system and a few back end pieces like that. So those are our two critical partners.
Thanks, Ben. Some more questions here. From Austin, do we become part owners as customers?
It's a good question. So the answer is no. We don't have a that's I guess the cooperative model, and we did explore that pretty thoroughly. What we're really hoping is that our customers do buy shares, but we're not obliging them to do that. So what we've done instead is have this set up this public company and do it in a way where we can have people can buy shares really easily. So in our last public offer, you could buy shares of $100 of packages. So we're really hoping that in our next one, which will be, I think, towards the end of next year, that those who are interested, whether they're a customer or not, take up that $100 if they choose and come participate in the life of the company. That we have, provisions that ensure that someone who has $100 worth of shares has the same right as someone who has $10,000 worth of shares. So there really is an open invitation for people to come, join, get involved, and start playing their role in decision making.
So a bit like the Bendigo Bank idea, where local people can become shareholders in their local bank. Now we can become shareholders in our local energy provider.
That's the hope. That's definitely the hope that as we sort of open a hub in Healesville, that people in Healesville could buy shares and participate in decision making.
Well, there's a local energy provider up in northern New South Wales, and Over Energy, different model to this one, and we actually have people in Healesville who became shareholders of an Over Energy, so they may want to sell out of that and become shareholders with Indigo Power, or maybe take on additional shares. That's right. Another question from Monica Hayes: what are the power charge rates? But you've already answered that. So there is a link on our website to Indigo Power, and I think your rates are up on your website as well.
Can I just say on that, Jeff, it's often confusing. So we have one plan, and basically that averages out about the same, but people have different meter types. And the meter type you have really depends on AusNet services, the metering and distribution service provider. So it's hard to say this is your price. You have to get in touch with us, and we can look that up in the national database and say you have this meter type, so it would be this price or this tariff structure, and you would join on that. But we can help you change to a different one. So if for instance you think, I use energy in this way, I'd prefer to have the anytime rather than the 2 rate, the more time of use one, we can help you switch from one to the other. And there's actually a fair few more that you have an option of exploring as well. And and that's just a matter of reaching out, and we can help with that.
Thanks, Ben. And Liz James is asking, do prices vary according to the hub?
Interesting question. No, they don't. So what we're hoping to do is do everything as best we can in this tariff structure. So keep it as much as possible a simple tariff that people understand, and having that the same across everyone. That's where we're at the moment. I mean, in the future, and depending on lots of different things, regulatory changes, especially, it would be nice, for instance, to say Healesville has got a lot of solar generation, it's got a lot of battery storage, it's really protecting the grid. Perhaps it's got customers who are willing to turn down their air conditioner at certain times, and that has a value. So there's an opportunity perhaps in the next 5 years to start returning value to communities who are creating it. That's one thing. And the second thing, obviously, it'd be nice to say that local power is cheaper. And again, that depends on some regulatory changes, especially to do with what we pay for transporting the power from one house to another. At the moment, we need to pay the same amount if I'm transporting power from my solar panels to my next door neighbour who doesn't have them. It's the same fee as if, that we're getting the power from the Latrobe Valley or something like that. So it's a really interesting space. It's developing and opening up, but that's the long answer. The short answer is everyone pays the same price no matter the hub.
And thanks, Ben. And a quick one to Michael Nardella. What times are off peak?
Off peak normally 11 till, depends on the tariff, but this one here is 11 till 7 on a weeknight, and then all day on the weekends.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Feller is asking, is an UBI controller required to join the grid? I presume he means the microgrid.
Yeah, no is the answer. So the UBI is sort of a really nice premium product that I've got on my home. Does really nice things. It has the community energy visualization, but the answer is no. We use the smart meter data, so there's not an absolute requirement. Well, there's not a requirement for an UBI. The other thing, the UBI is going to start to come into its own when there's battery storage, and perhaps we're saying, well, we need that control device, and perhaps we're saying, Indigo Power is saying to members of the Healesville hub, at high price events, would you all consider exporting from your battery to the hub, and we'll pay you a premium feed-in tariff for that. For that, you would need the smart control device and for the control function. So not to participate in the hub, but likely to participate in future the future events like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's all the questions now. Just check if there's any more. Oh yes, actually, there's one more. Do you have from Paul Walker? Do you have controlled load?
Yes, we do. I think it's the same as the off-peak price, but you can have the controlled load on this one here. It normally is the residential anytime with controlled load, which will be another 21 cents there.